has been a distressing couple of weeks, and I know that Tony Hall found it a very difficult decision to make. But once he'd seen the report by Ken McCrory, he found it very difficult to take any other course of action. So this is not a good day for the BBC, it's not a good day for Jeremy, and I know that a lot of people are going to be very disappointed.
And learning about the circumstances now of that punch, was it clear whether he was drunk, whether he'd been drinking?
I think that's very difficult to, I mean, that's for Ken to say, and he's, in his report, he's not gone there. I mean, it doesn't alter the fact that Jeremy, who acknowledged this himself, had acted in a way that was inappropriate, to put it mildly, and actually the guy who he had abused in this way was very shocked and traumatised by it. This is not easy whatsoever, and obviously there was a great deal of stress involved, but in the end this was not something that the BBC and Tony thought he could simply let go, so he took that decision.
So what decision did he take? Just clarify for us, has Jeremy Clarkson been fired today?
Well, look, Jeremy's contract runs out very shortly, within a matter of days, within a week or so. And the BBC has taken a decision not to renew that contract. But
would you say that the BBC has fired him? I mean, what status are we in?
Decide on what language you are. He's no longer employed by the BBC from next week.
And does that mean he will not work for the BBC again?
He is certainly not working for the BBC now on this contract, on this programme. What will happen in the future, I can't tell. We've only just got to this point, and I think there's no point speculating about the future.
But you're not going to rule out the fact that he could...
Well, I mean, it's not for me to rule it out, no. But nevertheless, this is a very serious matter, and he is no longer working on the programme.
I mean, the point that Guido Fawkes made there was that if he was a Premiership footballer, he'd spend a season out, or he'd have his, wages docked or whatever, and then probably make a comeback. I mean, would you like that to be the case with Jeremy Clarkson?
I think really it's too early to say anything like that at the moment. The point is, it's partly how does Jeremy respond to this, and it's been pretty distressing for everyone involved. I know that Tony took this very seriously. It was a very tough decision for him to make, and he realised he'd be disappointing a lot of people, a lot of viewers, and there's an incredibly good team there in Andy and his and James and Richard and others, and they're all obviously now wondering about what their future is and how they're going to sort this out.
But you wouldn't rule out that he could be working for the BBC again?
Well, of course I wouldn't rule that out, no, but that's not for now.
And when you look at the comments from Hammond and May tonight, it sounds like they don't really want to carry on Top Gear without Jeremy Clarkson. Would that be
Well, it
damaging?
Would be perfectly natural for them. Listen, they're a team. They've worked together for a very long time. They're all very attached. The question of what happens next to Top Gear is a conversation which should go on between the controller of BBC Two, Kim Schillingor, and between Andy and the team, and that needs to happen in the next few
weeks. If they all
weeks.
walk out the door, though, Top Gear will still continue in some form?
Well, I suspect so, but it would be a disappointment to us, obviously, to put it mildly, if that happened. But I can't jump to conclusions. This is a difficult moment for everybody, and I think everybody needs to spend some time thinking about what the best route is.
You heard that line from Steve Hewlett at the end of his report. He felt like, as he said to AA Girl, he was working for the enemy. Now, there's lots of suggestion that he's a man under pressure. We know about the illness, the death in the family.
Yeah.
And we've understood that the BBC extended that series by another 4 episodes, and he lost the plot, as it were, halfway through this extra workload. Some suggestion that one BBC executive said they shouldn't have pushed the extra series. Do you think that the BBC failed to provide enough support for a man who was clearly losing it?
Well, I think the point is about Jeremy that he's always someone who wants to get on work. That's one of the things he wants to do. The decision to extend, to do the run of 12 at once was actually the decision of the team. In retrospect, was it the right decision? Well, that's a question I must admit that you would have to say probably it wasn't the right decision. Whether it would have led to these events is speculative. This is not really, it's very difficult to say why this happened. I think clearly workload is one thing, the stress of the year, all the rest of it. But nevertheless, the events themselves clearly were disturbing, and as a consequence of that and a good deal of thought, I think Tony came to that conclusion.
What do you make of that line that we heard from Guido Fawkes, describing him as pretty much everything the BBC hates? They see him as blokish, as smoking, as drinking.
Well, I don't think that's true. I and many others love Top Gear. In fact, I was very involved, not the very first iteration of it, but it's been going for now about 30 years. Jeremy's been the BBC about 25 years. I was running BBC Two at the time he came in. He was not happy when he left Top Gear, tried other things, and we remodeled it, and he worked with Andy on it. So the truth is that we did enjoy the series, and we did like it. And the BBC is a place, despite what people say, which does embrace diversity.
But without him, I mean, he reached a demographic that is increasingly, if you like, disregarded by the BBC, which, you know, some argue plays to a largely metropolitan elite.
I don't know that I would buy that, actually, about the metropolitan elite. There are quite a lot of programmes which reach out to audiences who are C2Ds, who aren't sort of the metropolitan elite. However, are we going to miss Jeremy Clarkson? Yes, we are. It's not been easy, this, and so I wouldn't deny that.